It's time for the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is the voice of the working class, Rick Smith.
Welcome, brothers, sisters, working class heroes. This is the Rick Smith Show. Thanks so much for being here today on the big program. Lots to get to, lots to talk about. You know, if you woke up this morning after Joe Biden's speech and you were angry, you know he was talking to you. If you woke up all, you know, you're one of the MAGA folks he was talking to. You know you're one of the red hat wearing, flag waving terrorist folks he was talking about. One of the people attacking and destroying democracy. You know who you are. This is one of those days where the rest of us woke up and went, yeah, yeah, Joe, but about time, Joe, about time you, about time. About time he came around to the reality that there's a fight out there to be had. That, you know, maybe the fight we should be taking on are these people who want to tear down our democracy and tear our country apart. Now, for those who don't know, you know, the president gave a speech on Thursday in front of Philadelphia's Independence Hall, and the people who were, again, the people who woke up in the morning angry, were angry about the red background. And they said, "Oh, this looks just like Hitler." And again, I love it when Nazis accuse other people of being Nazis. It's really cute. It's cute when actual fascists and actual Nazis accuse others. You know, that kind of projection thing. I think it's kind of cute. But it is exactly what it is. And look, I love the speech the president gave. It was the right speech. He had the right tone and delivered it well. I give him credit. Normally, Joe's not the greatest orator. Because understand, he's got the speech thing. He's got some issues there. Not the greatest orator, but gave a great speech. And he's right. The MAGA Republicans don't respect the Constitution. Very clear about that. Very clear that Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans represent an extremism that threatens the very foundation of our republic. How can you disagree with that? I don't. He also said that there's no question the Republican Party is dominated, driven, and intimidated by Trump and the MAGA Republicans, and that is a threat to this country. And he's also right that we are not bystanders in this ongoing attack on our democracy. We cannot stand by and let them do this. Because he's right. You can't love this country. You can't claim to love the country. You can't claim to be a patriot if it's only when you win. Sorry. And look, he said, I will not stand by and let elections be stolen by people who simply refuse to believe that they lost. And they did. They lost. That simple. Now, as I said, if you woke up today, you woke up angry. If you woke up angry, he was talking to you. So the question I have is, how's that red hat fitting today? How's that feeling today? Now, my problem pretty simply, my problem is Biden seemed to want to try and couch things in terms of the MAGA Republicans as opposed to the rest of the Republicans. I'm not trying to save the Republican Party from itself. I view it as all Republicans who support the agenda right now and aren't speaking out strongly against what Trump has been doing and what the party is currently doing. I put them all in that category. But I understand why President Biden has gone that route. I get it. But I don't necessarily agree. Let's go to the phones. We got Kurt on line one. Kurt, how you doing today?
Hey, good evening and happy Labor Day to you, Mr. Smith.
Same as you. What's up?
So when's Mr. Smith going to go to Washington? That's what I want to know. But seriously, though.
Well, that's something we've discussed.
But hey, but seriously though, last night President Biden gave that wonderful on the mark speech. It had to be said, it had to be done. But here's the thing. All these red hat maggots that are butthurt this morning from being called out for what they are, tomorrow night, Donald Trump's going to be in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, saying the same stuff about Democrats and liberals and women and blacks and Mexicans and homosexuals and people who aren't Christian. And you know those same people that were so upset about being called out for what they really are, they're going to eat his crap 2 and 3 times over before that speech is done tomorrow night.
Yeah, and they're going to prove exactly what President Biden said on Thursday to be absolutely the God's honest truth. And then they're going to be angry that Biden pointed it out. That's the ironic part. It's like looking in the mirror and seeing yourself and being angry by what you see.
And you know what? I'm going to say, you brought that up. If Donald Trump did one good thing for this country, and I'm being dead straight serious as a heart attack about this, if he did one good thing for this country, it's he made the average American look at themselves in the mirror and just realize how ugly a human being they really are.
Yeah, but my problem with that is they looked in the mirror. They said, I look pretty good this ugly. And, hey, there are a lot of ugly other people ugly, too, and we're going to all come together and, well, try to overthrow our country and go in a direction where we can go get those people that we don't like. That's my problem. Exactly. That is the legacy of the Orange Menace.
That and the fact that he so what do you think about all these missing files now? All these missing files that were either out of the folders or in his desk drawer. So was he, one, collecting the stuff for nostalgia? No. Was he going to write a memoir? Well, he doesn't even know how to read, so why would he write a book? Plus, what publishing company wants to take the liability of those lies? Or was he going to trade them for secrets, or was he going to trade them, or was he going to sell the secrets?
Or did he?
Cash hurt? What's that?
Or did he already? The folders are empty.
Right. And then my other question is, why was Kevin McCarthy so gung-ho about Donald Trump needs to take responsibility for January 6th, blah, 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 Donald Trump this, Donald Trump that? And then he goes down to Mar-a-Lago, or as Randy Rhoads likes to call it, Mega Loco, and all of a sudden he kissed the ring, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, January 6th was just it's just a tourist. It was just a bunch of tourists visiting. It wasn't anything serious. If there's recordings of telephone conversations, which they say there could be, or if there's stuff on any Congress people, how much blackmail do you think Donald Trump has on Kevin McCarthy to change his tune, as well as all these other people?
There is the question, is it not?
Exactly. I mean, think about it. Lindsey Graham. He did a complete 180 after January 6th. Kevin McCarthy. All these people that, I would have thought, okay, maybe they're finally seeing the light, and then they go down to Mar-a-Lago and they kiss the ring, and all of a sudden it's like, can't talk about that anymore. He's a good guy. We're on his side. He didn't do anything wrong. So that leads me to wonder, blackmail.
Yeah, good point. Good point, Kurt. I appreciate the time, man. Good stuff.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
You got questions? Got questions. And look, those empty folders, where's that stuff at? Now, they're going to be able to find out what that stuff was supposed to be. Now, will we ever find out? I don't think so. But somebody's going to. Still hope. But as we kick off Labor Day weekend, I hope everyone has a safe, fun, happy Labor Day weekend. For me, this is a special time. Labor Day, our 17th anniversary will be Monday. It's been 17 years we've been doing this little program. Started with the idea of adding some balance to the airwaves, giving listeners an opportunity to hear something other than right-wing blather. We have grown from a single station in central Pennsylvania to being heard on stations all across this country. We want to thank you, our listeners, our friends, and all the folks who have helped us along the way. It has been an amazing journey to this point, and I just wanted to throw that out first because, again, Labor Day is one of these, for me, special holidays because the history that goes along with remembering what it took for workers to build a prosperous working class, and in this moment, what it's going to take for us to move forward to rebuild. And again, it comes back down to the political end of this. It comes back down to us connecting. What Trump has done masterfully, and what Republicans have done masterfully, is divide us, rip us apart, slice and dice. It's what the wealth class has always done well. slice and dice and pit people against each other on race and on gender and on ethnicity and on religion and on orientation, everything, hair color. They'll figure out a way to divide people to suit their aims and their needs. It's up to us. It's up to us to come back together. And in the workplace, for me, that's one of the places where we should be fighting to make sure that we are united so we can fight for better wages, hours, conditions. We can fight for better opportunities, not just for ourselves, but for our kids and for the future of this country. And I'll tell you, it's something that we most certainly, without question, have to do. So hope you have a safe, happy Labor Day weekend. I'm looking forward to it. Got to take a quick break. When we come back, Mandela Barnes going to be here. He's a candidate for governor for Senate. Yeah, Senate. He's the lieutenant governor in Wisconsin. He is the Senate candidate out in Wisconsin. We're going to get some thoughts from Mandela Barnes about the race out there with Ron Johnson, the guy who thinks, yeah, we don't need jobs in Wisconsin. Send them to South Carolina. That's okay. We don't need those union jobs. Crazy stuff. Quick break. Right back with Mandela Barnes.
From the steel mills of Pennsylvania to the auto factories of Michigan to the modern makers movement, manufacturing makes our nation great. I'm Scott Paul, president of the Alliance for American Manufacturing. We bring business and labor together to advocate for policies that everyone can agree on. Together, we can strengthen manufacturing and create good-paying American jobs. Help us keep it made in America.
So, I've always said that we have the best democracy money can buy, and fairly cheap. And it appears that today's poster child is Wisconsin Senator Ron Johnson, because the good folks over at Up North News, they've got a report out that says that a number of executives and companies who have outsourced jobs from Wisconsin have given the senator about $77,000 over the years, which I guess, because I've asked this question a bunch, why isn't Ron Johnson angry at that Oshkosh company that wants to take all those union jobs to South Carolina? You go, really? South Carolina? Why did he believe Wisconsin's got enough good union-paying jobs with health care and retirement security and job security and safe working conditions? And I have no idea. Maybe my next guest will have an idea. That's why I've asked Wisconsin's Lieutenant Governor Mandela Barnes to come talk with us. Maybe the guy in November who's going to send Ron Johnson back to his millionaire mansions and to his billionaire boys club. Lieutenant Governor, thanks for taking time for us.
Hey, of course. Thank you so much for having me today. Really excited to talk about the race and talk about our plan to win.
Yeah, but I gotta start with this, and I know we're going to talk about you in a second. But watching politics over the years, saying that I'm okay with a thousand good union jobs going to another state, that used to be the death sentence for a senator. I'm completely baffled on how this isn't.
Well, that's the thing. It's political malpractice. It is representative malpractice. In fact, it's disgraceful, but it's not surprising. And I'll tell you, it is 1,000 jobs on the surface, yes, but it's also 1,000 opportunities for working class families so that kids growing up just like me can have a fair shot at success. I wouldn't be here today without my dad's UAW job on the assembly line. Now, Ron Johnson's a person who's come out in support of sending American jobs overseas, so I guess we shouldn't be surprised when he lets them go out of state. Saying that we have enough jobs here shows the complete disconnect, the lack of understanding of reality that we're experiencing with Ron Johnson, the U.S. Senate. And as you know, the folks over there at Oshkosh Defense have been some of his biggest financial backers. And once again, he puts the interests of his wealthy donors before his own community, his own backyard in Oshkosh.
I mean, here's the thing. And for me, this is kind of one of those, I guess it's because I grew up in a housing project on the west side of Cleveland. We were dirt poor by American standards. And I watched as people got those union jobs that Ron Johnson is saying Wisconsin doesn't need. I watched their lives get better. I watched they had food at the end of the month. They got, the kids got bicycles. They got a secondhand car. Eventually they got to move up and out and had better lives. So for me, as a young kid growing up in the 70s in the projects, union job, better life. That to me still stands. So to have somebody in the Senate go, don't care. We're going to send it to the most anti-union state in the country. I mean, there's some symbolism there for me, Mandela.
Well, certainly. And the symbolism is the most frustrating part. I was born and raised in the city of Milwaukee. I was in the heart of the city. And my parents were both active union members. My dad was in the UAW, still very active in the UAW. My mother was a public school teacher for 30 years, very active in the teachers union. I mean, even before that, my granddad moved to Milwaukee after serving in World War II. He was a union steelworker. And while I don't come from a wealthy family or well-connected, I'm proud to be from a union household. And I know the struggles that working people face because those are also mine. I also know the triumphs. And that's what's allowed me to be able to connect with people all across this state, because even though some of our lives may look a little bit different depending on where you're from, our struggles, our challenges, but also our hopes are the same. And it was those union jobs, as you mentioned, I'm glad you brought it up. It was those union jobs that gave my family a ticket to the middle class, as union jobs have done for so many other people across this country, especially in the industrial Midwest. There were doors of opportunity that were open for me that so many people can only dream of. And that's actually what's at stake with this election, because the jobs that we're fighting for, the type of jobs that you can raise a family on, the type of jobs that let your kids go to college if that's what they choose, or let you take care of your parents if they get sick and not have to worry about putting food on the table. It is the type of jobs that will rebuild the middle class in Wisconsin and across the country. It is quite clear that Ron Johnson is against opportunities for Wisconsin, opportunities for America for that matter. I mean, he just voted against the CHIPS Act as an example.
And again, I have no idea how a senator does that. But here again, it comes from different perspectives. I'm sure this is someone who's never seen a day of struggle. This is someone who lives in his mansion, and that, as where folks like you and me, we understand what struggle is. And I talk about this all the time. I have led what is the American dream because of that union card I carry in my wallet. That ideal that I was born believing in, that if you work hard, you play by the rules, that you actually get ahead. I believe that, and I want that for every kid. I want that kid that's growing up in the housing project that I grew up in to have the same opportunities, the same path to a solid middle-class existence that I've had. Look, I'm not rich by any stretch of the imagination, but I've had a great life, and I've done great things that I'm proud of. I want that for everybody.
I mean, we're on the exact same page there. I say it often. I want every child growing up in this state and all across this country to at least have the same opportunities that I had.
Yeah, I mean, it's time, and this is why we need people like you in the Senate. I hope folks will go to mandelabarnes.com and check out the website and hopefully donate, because these campaigns are expensive, especially when you're going up against someone who has seen his wealth quadruple over his time in the Senate, and or double, quadruple.
He doubled his wealth, and he complained about it.
There you go.
He complained that it didn't quadruple.
Okay. While people are losing their homes and people are struggling to make ends meet, he's worrying about his millions. Not okay. I got it. So Labor Day coming up. What's the message from Mandela Barnes on Labor Day?
Well, the message on Labor Day is the same as it is every day. Wisconsin is a very working class state. This is about rebuilding that middle class that gave me opportunity, regardless of where we go in this state, regardless of what community. We all want the same things. We want good schools to send our children to. We want health care that lets us go to the doctor without worrying about a surprise bill, and a good paying job that allows us to put food on the table. We deserve better, and people are ready to fight for it. People are ready to organize for better, because Ron Johnson has left us behind for far too long. The idea that Wisconsin used to supply the entire world effectively is a reality that most people know that we can actually achieve again. We've done some remarkable things in the state, especially when it comes to supporting working people and providing that sort of opportunity. But it has been out of touch politicians that has let those opportunities slip through their fingers. And we need people with real working class experience in the United States Senate who are going to show up. We're going to continue to fight every single day to help improve quality of life for working folks all across this country. Yeah,
it's sadly people like Ron Johnson who have taken the forward state backwards. And speaking of backwards, on this Labor Day, I saw a report that Ron Johnson has an innovative way to lower wages and help destroy Social Security, which has been a Republican want for a very long time. Evidently, he and Graham Leach Bliley brainchild Phil Graham have come together on this innovative idea, I guess, to coax seniors out of retirement. And the idea, they don't have to pay payroll tax, they don't have to do any of that, so no money going into Social Security, and we're going to lower wages by more people going into the workforce. This is, for Ron Johnson, an innovative idea to help business.
Well, that's what's so frustrating about it is that, the things that truly, truly tear at the fabric of, what gave me opportunity, what gave you opportunity, the idea that, what made Wisconsin such a strong state in the first place, creating an example for the rest of the country for that matter. You got a person like Ron Johnson who wants to tear that down. And this is my life. This is beyond politics. My granddad moved to Milwaukee after World War II. Like I said, he got a job as a union steelworker at A.O. Smith. Walked in one day, walked out 35 years later, was able to retire with benefits that he earned. He laid a foundation. So when you hear people like Ron Johnson attack Social Security, I think about my grandfather. I think about all the other grandparents out there, even my own dad, who was able to retire after 30 years on that assembly line. He put his body on the line, still dealing with carpal tunnel. And he and everyone else across this country deserves the benefits that they have paid into and worked hard for their entire lives. And Ron Johnson could not have a more out of touch position on this issue. He has no right to take these benefits that people worked hard for. And that's why I'm running for the Senate, to work to shore up Social Security, to ensure that every person has a fair shot to work hard, to achieve success, and retire with the benefits that they earned. And this also means making sure that wealthy Americans pay their fair share to keep the system strong.
There you go. So last line of questioning I've got for you, because ultimately when you're senator, you got to carry an agenda, and I'm hoping that agenda is a solidly pro-labor one, just judging from your background. But our laws are broken, Mandela. You know it. I know it. People who are organizing right now are struggling unnecessarily. How do we streamline the process to get the 60 million people who would want to join a union tomorrow to be able to do so? The 71% of people who are in favor of unions to be able to join and form unions to fight for better wages, hours, and conditions. How do we push policy and pass laws to get that done?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, because here in Wisconsin, we saw the state level destruction by Scott Walker.
Yeah, I was there. I was sleeping on your Capitol floor.
Seriously, I mean, the outright attack on working people, right? And it's not just here. It happened in other states. It was almost a domino effect after Wisconsin. And that's why we need federal laws on the books to make it easier for people to be able to make their voices heard in the workplace, so that people can have safe environments and get paid what they are worth. And that starts with passing the PRO Act. I mean, that is the base level. That's where we need to start. We need to do everything we can to strengthen Davis-Bacon. We need to make sure that working people have a say-so.
It's that simple. Mandela, I appreciate you taking time for us. I hope you'll come back and share some more as this campaign continues. I wish you the best. I hope folks will go to mandelabarnes.com, find out how you can help out, especially for our listeners in Wisconsin. Get out there, knock doors, make phone calls, and also make donations, because when you're taking on somebody as wealthy as Ron Johnson, and with all of his billionaire backers and corporate special interests lining his pockets, working people need a champion, need a fighter. Mandela, I appreciate the time.
Hey, I appreciate you. Good to see you.
Good stuff. Thanks so much. Again, mandelabarnes.com, the website. Check that out. Going to take a quick break. Right back. When we come back, Labor Secretary Marty Walsh is going to be here to share some thoughts. Back after this.
It doesn't matter what kind of weather. It doesn't matter what time of day or night. When Mother Nature's done her worst, the only thing that matters to us is keeping the lights on for you. The hardworking women and men of the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, dedicated to keeping the power on in communities all across the country. Because when bad weather strikes, we know what matters most. IBEW, the power professionals.
So as we head into Labor Day weekend, Labor's never been more popular. And if you look at the most recent Gallup poll out, Labor's approval rating, what is it, 71%? And when you look at the younger population, even more popular than the 71% number, which is incredible. The question is why is it that in the private sector, only about 6% of workers are in unions right now? Here to answer some of those questions and maybe talk about, well, this upcoming holiday. I've asked our good friend Labor Secretary Marty Walsh to come share some thoughts. Secretary Walsh, thanks for taking time for us.
Thanks for having us. Thanks for having me today, I should say. And happy Labor Day weekend to everyone who's listening and watching.
So, I talk about often on the program how I grew up in a housing project on the west side of Cleveland, and the struggles of growing up poor, the struggles of that kind of an existence, and how when someone in the neighborhood got a union job, back in the 70s at the Ford plant or the Chevy plant or one of the feeder plants, their lives got better immediately. Food at the end of the month, secondhand bikes, better clothes, eventually moving out, those kind of things. And you share somewhat of a similar background, right?
Yeah, I grew up in a neighborhood in Boston, Dorchester, and I grew up in a 3-family house, and my parents immigrated from Ireland to America. My father came out in 1956. My mother came out in 1959. They met here, and I talk about the opportunity for my father to join a union, which allowed us the opportunity to live the American dream. We weren't rich by any stretch of the imagination, but there was, most times it was construction was a little different. Most times it was a decent, steady income coming in. Difficult times in construction. Sometimes you get laid off and you don't have that steady income, but over time, the dignity of having a union and what comes with the union, healthcare benefits, eventually a pension, annuity, all of that stuff. So my father and mother were able to live with dignity and respect. And as you just mentioned, a lot of families, when they get that opportunity to join a union and join a labor movement and a company with a union, because companies a lot of times with unions respect their workers a little differently than other people do, because they might have their battles during the contract negotiation, but at the end of the day, it's a partnership. And I think what we're seeing in the country right now is a lot of people wanting to become part of a union, and we've seen the applications at the NLRB go up 58% this year so far. We have more applications for an election right now than any time last year, complete the whole year together. So there's definitely a resurgence in the labor movement to some degree. And quite honestly, I think it's younger people that are excited about the opportunity of collective power. And when I mean collective power, it's not just about wages, but it's about respect in the workplace. It's about dignity. It's about work conditions, all of that stuff. That's what I'm seeing when I talk to young people.
Yeah, no, it's about what I talk about all the time here on the program, this sense of empowerment. I've always had a union job. I've been very fortunate in my working life to have always had a good union job, that I've felt that kind of empowerment in the workplace and also in society as a whole. And I think that's something that's contagious. Once you get a taste for it, it's something that grows. And I think the younger generation watched their parents kind of take a beating over the last couple of decades, and they're not going to have it.
No, it's true. I mean, I've had a chance to talk to a lot of these workers. The president had a meeting at the White House one day, and we talked with Starbucks workers, Amazon workers, REI workers. There was workers from the Baltimore Public Library. And what I found amazing was when they all talked about forming a union, none of them talked about wages. They all talked about work conditions. They talked about, time off. They talked about all of that stuff. And I thought it was really interesting that this real wave in the movement, when the labor movement started, in the beginning of the, late 19th century to 20th century, it was about work conditions and the way people were being treated and paid. And you fast forward 100 plus years later, this type of resurgence of the labor movement, it's some of it's on the same basic fundamentals of making sure that you have good, strong, work conditions in your place of employment. And I think that we'll see what happens now over the course of next year. But I think the labor movement, organized labor, has a real opportunity in front of it. They have a President Biden, that's very pro-labor, pro-union, probably the most pro-union president we've ever had in the history of our country. And it's really important for them to understand this moment in time. And then also companies, a lot of companies are resisting organized labor right now. And what I try to tell companies that will talk to me about this is that, there's a real desire for unions to work collectively with companies, and that companies be successful. Because if companies aren't successful, then they're not going to hire people. So labor has a vested interest in making sure as they organize these workplaces and these companies, that these companies continue to be successful, if not even get bigger. Yep. Because there's an opportunity there to represent the members and collectively work together on the goal of whatever the company might be.
Yeah, I say it all the time. I want the company I work for to be as wildly profitable as they can possibly be, so that come contract negotiation time, I can grab some of that profit for myself and for my coworkers as well. Yeah. That's kind of the whole process, isn't it?
It really is, and it's all, it's about that. And I think that what companies are seeing in the private sector today that might not be organized, they're paying their employees more. And people aren't sticking by. They're going to a better job, and there's opportunities out there today. And companies in the past, you'd go to work for a company, you might do 20, 30, 40 years there. That's not the case today. And we started to see the change with millennials, where millennials weren't connected to a company for their entire career. And the next generation of young people, it's the same way. The young people graduating college today, that there's a good chance that they're gonna have, by the time they're 20 years in the workforce, they're going to work for 10 different companies. Unless companies, but that's not good for companies. Unless companies can figure out, how do you recruit and retain talented people? And organized labor can be one of those ways to recruit and retain people in your workforce.
Yeah, no, I worked for a company for 20 years, and they used to brag at the fact that they only had a 1% turnover rate. That they were able to retain good quality people, and that's how they were able to be profitable. You're listening to the Rick Smith Show. We're here with Marty Walsh. He's the Secretary of Labor. But here's the thing, Marty. You look at the reality. You hear these polls out there, and 71% of the people approve. 60 million people would join a union tomorrow if they could. I don't think most people know, how to begin. And I know that you, as head of the Department of Labor, are in the process of moving towards a one-stop shop of information on getting resources to get people that knowledge to maybe move in that direction, because that's kind of your gig, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And we're going to go live on the website with Know Your Rights campaign. People who have interest in unions will be able to join on and see how to join a union. And there's a place for the labor movement as well, the AFL-CIO and the unions to go out there and to not just talk about unionism, but help people be able to access those unions. And I think that there's, that's not the goal, the responsibility of the federal government. Even me as a labor secretary that's a union member, I don't sign people up for unions. That's going to be the organized labor's role. But what we are going to do is explain to people what their rights are and allow them the opportunity. If they have a question about unions, they come to the website, look at the website, and then it's going to be, it's going to be up to organized labor and different unions to go out and organize and make connections to folks.
No, I mean, what's interesting is this is, as you've tweeted out, this is the first ever worker organizing research and knowledge center. And I'm going, the Department of Labor has been around for decades. Why now is this the first time that this is being put together? And good on you for doing it. And thank you and good on you. But why is this the first time this is happening?
Because it's the first time in history we have a president that truly believes in the labor movement, that completely believes in the entire labor movement, President Biden. And President Biden feels that people should have the right to free right to join a union if they choose. And he's encouraged companies that if members decide to sign those pledge cards and have a vote to form a union, he asks them to respect that right. And I think that you have an administration that understands and values the respect of the middle class. When you think about the pandemic, this is something that a lot of people don't talk about, but I answer a lot of questions about quitting and quit rates and jumping jobs and people not going back to work and understaffed companies. And if you look at the numbers don't lie. You look at companies that have union members in them that are organized, they're not having problem recruiting and retaining people. They're not having problems with people quitting their job and going to other jobs. The reason for it is because the workers feel respected. They usually have a pension plan or a strong 401k. They have health care. They have work conditions that they're able to have a conversation with their employer through the process set up. So again, I think that there's something to be said that a lot of people are watching and saying, wait a second, and you mentioned this yourself, the union worker is doing okay because, they might not start out with a roof owning their own home, but they have an opportunity at some point to buy their own home. They have an opportunity to put food on the table. They have an opportunity to retire with dignity. I think people are looking at that saying, wait a second, there's something there. And having some collective power through collective bargaining, it's a good way to go through life as far as an employee. And I think that, all of these different factors are coming together at this moment in time, not due to the pandemic, but the pandemic really caused a lot of concern in individuals in their life, and work-life balance is another one. So I think this right now, you have a president that, he talks about the middle class being built and unions building the middle class, that how important that is, that truly that labor membership is a ticket into the middle class.
Yeah. Now you brought up the pandemic, and look, a lot of people coming out of the pandemic, internalize that, essential worker title, that frontline hero title, that patriotic kind of pat on the back we gave them for showing up and doing their job. And now that we've kind of gotten away from it a little bit, I think they want that respect that came from that. And then that comes with wages, that comes with hours, that comes with working conditions. I know that you're in the process of honoring those workers at the Labor Department's Labor Hall of Honor, and I think this is the right thing to do. Because we had nurses, we had bus drivers, we had grocery cashiers, we had meat packers, we had all these workers who we called essential. They were frontline heroes, and they got us through the pandemic. And sadly, they've been relegated almost to the back again. I think helping this, not a bad idea.
Well, that's expected. I mean, unfortunately, I think we know, and I know that folks that are working in those different jobs are essential all the time. They're essential during snowstorms. They're essential during hurricanes. They're essential during tornadoes. They're essential during natural disasters. They always go to work. And during the pandemic, they went to work every day. And in the early days, there was no PPE. They didn't have masks. They didn't understand. None of us really understood what the magnitude of COVID was. But yeah, on Thursday, we honored the essential employee, and we put them in the Hall of Honor here at the Department of Labor. We have a wall downstairs, and there's been some great Americans on that wall that have done tremendous contributions to organized labor and to labor as a whole. There's a few names on there that I'm not sure what their contributions were, but they have before me, so I'll just leave it at that. But it is something that we wanted to honor them last year, and we verbally honored them, but we were still in the midst of COVID, and the numbers were spiking this time last year. So Thursday, we had an event at the Department of Labor where hundreds of people came in, including a lot of essential workers, and I had the opportunity to thank them for their great work, and they'll be forever enshrined here at the Department of Labor. And when we get normal times where people will be out visiting again, people will come by this building and get a chance to see that recognition on the Hall of Honor. And as a labor person, that's quite an honor, I think, in my opinion. And then also, I think we can never forget them. You're absolutely right. We can't forget them. And every time you go to the grocery store or go to a coffee shop or wherever you go, you just remember that workers, in a freezing cold morning, that worker's going to be there. In a very hot afternoon, that worker's going to be there, and they've been there for us forever.
Yeah, now I got to ask you, and I know you got to get going real soon, but I got to get to this. California just passed a bill that I'm hoping Governor Newsom will sign. That'll give 550,000 fast food workers an opportunity to do something fairly unique in this country that we don't do, this idea of sectorial bargaining. I'm curious your thoughts on what they're doing out there.
Well, it'll be interesting to see. I know I've got a lot of calls on it. A lot of people are supporting it. I'm not sure what's going to happen at the end of the day, but I think that anytime that I certainly support anytime we can put a little more power in the hands of workers. I certainly support that. As a legislator myself in Massachusetts, I was able to accomplish that. As a mayor of the city, I was able to work with all sides and respect workers' rights and workers' ability to bargain and workers' ability to organize. So, and now as Secretary of Labor, I do the same thing. I support workers' rights. And if a worker decides or chooses they want to join a union, we should allow them. If a worker makes a decision not to join a union, we should respect that too. I mean, let's be honest. That's how it is, and I think that's how I operate, and that's how I've always operated.
Yeah, but I'm looking at California's setup. They want to set up this commission across the fast food industry to kind of raise wages, raise conditions, and do something that I don't know that we do often in this country. I mean, I spent most of my working life under the National Master Freight Agreement in the trucking industry, which was an industry standard agreement. This is using legislation to kind of do that. This is kind of unique, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like, there's been other small pieces of legislation around the country, but this is probably the largest piece of it, of legislation like this that I've ever seen. I know in other legislatures they do little bits and pieces of things, but this is probably very unique, groundbreaking legislation that's being considered out there in California.
Last thing, what's the Walsh family going to do for the holiday?
Well, this holiday, I'm usually home in Boston, and I usually go to the Labor Day breakfast on Monday, and this about 1,200 people go to the breakfast, and I've always gone to that. As a legislator, as a mayor, I spoke at it every year as a mayor, and last year they didn't have it, and then this year I won't be there. I'm going to be in Cincinnati on Sunday, throwing out the first pitch at the Cincinnati Reds games with my brothers and sisters in organized labor. And then I'm going to go over to Milwaukee on Monday. I'll be in Milwaukee and Pittsburgh on Monday celebrating Labor Day. And then next weekend, I'll be in New York City as the Grand Marshal of the Labor Day Parade. So I'm pretty psyched about that. It's such an honor for me, marching in New York as the head of the Labor Department. So I'm excited about that. So no cookout really, and no hometown. No home bed this weekend. But I want to be all over the country celebrating with some great labor leaders in this country.
Well, amazing stuff, Marty. I appreciate you taking time for us. Keep up the great work you're doing there at the Department of Labor, and I hope you'll come back and talk to us again real soon.
Thank you, and happy Labor Day to everybody.
You as well. Again, Marty Walsh, Secretary of Labor. Love to hear your thoughts. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. I'm going to take a quick break. Right back. Stick around. Listen to The Rick Smith Show. We're working people. Come to talk.
I took 2 years of electric in high school, and I was the only girl in the class there. Here, I'm the only girl as far as installers go. I'm a single mom, too. I joined the union because it gave me options for health care and life insurance so that I know my son's taken care of. I like what I do. This is the best job I've ever had. You think solar panels is more like California. You wouldn't think Appalachia would have any. It would be smart if the government would invest more in clean energy resources.
Yes, indeed. Lots to celebrate this Labor Day weekend. And look, I looked to California, and this fast food accountability and standards recovery, the FAST Act is what it's called, the Fast Recovery Act, going to give the fast food industry an opportunity to put a floor under their feet. This is not a bad thing. Understand the restaurant industry, the fast food industry, not happy. No, not happy. They've had control for so long. They've had, both hands firmly, implanted on the steering wheel driving the car, that they do not, under any circumstances, want to give up control. And what that control has gotten is poor working conditions, poverty wages, and desperation for hundreds of thousands of workers, not just in California but across the country. They've abused that privilege, and this is one of those moments where you go, well, now it's time for we the people to step in. What I find interesting, and this is another one of those moments where you get people go, well, those jobs are just jobs for people who get their first job. They're just teenagers. Some of the stories I've heard from people who have spent their entire lives working in this industry, and you can say what you want about people who make a career of this. I believe that these jobs deserve the dignity and respect of a living wage. Every job is deserving of dignity and respect. Whether it is a job that teenagers start out at, it's not solely that. Yeah, even when I remember going back to high school, and again, I think about, one of the first jobs I had was working in a fast food restaurant, and I hated it. It was horrible. It was probably one of the most difficult jobs I've ever had, dealing with the heat, dealing with the being burned by the damn fryer, being, just miserable, having to, rush around crazy, and then dealing with the people. I mean, that was literally the worst part of it. And this is one of those things where, I hear these stories from people all the time. And I remember thinking back as a 17-year-old going, I can't imagine these people who are in their 30s and 40s who are working here, who this is their job. This is their livelihood. This is their life. They have to put up with this. And I tell my kids, the story of how I got fired from that job. Because, yeah, ultimately, I'm sure you know me. I'm clearly not cut out for customer service. A woman came back after, consuming more than half of everything that she had ordered, and then complained about it and said she wanted her money back. And I said, no, I'll be happy to give you something else if you're not happy with this. And no, and so it just came to this back and forth. And I'm just like, I'm sorry, I can't do that. That's not my rule. I'm not making this up. This is what they told me I have to say. I'm 17. What do you want? So she got mad and she took what was left of the French fries with all the ketchup on it and she threw it at me, which then made me very angry. And I picked up the Frosty that was on the counter and I threw it back at her. And, well, clearly that was not the right way to deal with a customer service problem. And I now, as I'm a little bit older, I now realize that was probably not the right way to handle that. But in the moment, and being 17 and not giving a you-know-what about that job, because I had my whole life ahead of me, that seemed like the right choice. Seemed like a good choice to me. And it makes, all these years later, it makes a good story. But here's the thing. I think about, what if that was my reality? What if I was 35 years old and I have a child at home and rent to pay and some, a loved one with health problems? You go down the list of what ifs. I now have to endure not only dangerous working conditions and an overbearing boss with unpredictable hours and, just all of that. I now have to put up with that under no circumstances. And so I look at this council that they want, this fast food sector council that they are going to set up if and when the governor of California signs this, as a good thing, to set a floor beneath everyone's feet so that all of the fast food industry plays by the same rules on scheduling, on working conditions, on treatment of workers, all of those things that a union would do. But we've allowed our labor laws to get so broken in this country and to be so splintered and disjointed that it's damn near impossible to organize the fast food industry because they've insulated themselves with these franchise agreements. So the big Golden Arch place, you can't organize the Golden Arches. The girl with the pigtails, can't organize that. The guy walking around with the plastic crown, you can't organize all of them. You got to go place by place by place, which is impossible to do. So this is the best alternative, to say this industry, this entire sector, we're going to set some rules. And you're going to compete based on this being the rules of the game. This is fair. And it's something that the industry should want, because they should want their competition not to be on low road employment, but on best quality, on best service. That seems to me, and as consumers, that's what we should want. That's what we should be pushing and fighting for. Instead of having a system set up where we've got people living in homeless shelters, serving us food, taking baths in sinks, or if at all, maybe we should pay them a living wage. Now, in other countries, I know we can't look abroad because we're number one, we're better. Those jobs, again, respectable, dignified, and in ways that people can earn a living. Now, are they living on Madison Avenue or Park Avenue? Are they living high off the hook? No, but they're making a living. And for me, this is one of those moments. On Labor Day weekend, we should be fighting to make sure that every job, no matter what it is you do for a living, is worthy of that dignity and respect, is worthy of that ability to have dignity in what you do and pride in what you do. That's the amazing thing. Every one of these people I talk to, they have pride in what they do, even if you don't. And this is why I think it's a good thing, and I call on Governor Newsom to absolutely, without question, sign the Fast Recovery Act. If you missed any of the program, make sure you download the podcast at thericksmithshow.com.
The best way to strengthen America's economy? How about investing in America's fastest growing industry, clean energy? We're talking jobs, millions of them, the type that pay well and can't be outsourced. Because the thing about clean energy, it's all right here, American made. It means lower utility costs for families, and it's how we take on climate change. An investment in clean energy is a big win. Congress, let's get it done.
My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the Pilgrim's pride. From every mountainside, let freedom ring.
Welcome back to The Rick Smith Show. Check out our website, thericksmithshow.com. Questions, comments, something on your mind, you can email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Got some communications on, evidently coming up on September 12th. You're going to see in Minnesota about 15,000 nurses taking to the picket line on a 3-day strike, as the Minnesota Nurses Association has announced that hospitals in the Twin Cities and Duluth regions have voted to authorize a strike, according to their president, Mary Turner. Look, this is a historic move, they're saying, and not just because it's going to be the largest private nurses strike in U.S. history, she says, but because it's the first time that so many Minnesota nurses across the state will strike together. This is. You remember the frontline heroes, the essential workers, the people that we put up on the pedestal and worshipped and said great things about. This is them going, you know what, things got to change. This is them saying, we went through the pandemic using garbage bags and wearing masks for multiple days and smearing antiseptic on the inside of it so we could be safe. Things got to change. And this is what this is. And look, I think we're going to see more strikes. I think not just with nurses, but across every industry. I think we're going to see lots more working people saying things got to change. And we're going to have a say, we're going to have a voice, and we demand fairness. I haven't heard any of these people say they want more than what's fair. They want decent wages, they want decent benefits, they want job security. They want what they were sold, that American dream, that idea that if you work hard, you play by the rules, that you absolutely get ahead. I don't blame them. It's about time. It's about time in this country we stop being beaten down and working people start demanding their worth. That's the reality. Now, here's the problem. I had someone reach out to me and say, what do I do? Going through chemotherapy. I need to go into one of these places. What do I do? Do I postpone my therapy? And my response was very simple. These strikes are not about killing people. These strikes may be a little inconvenience, but they're more informational. They're more not targeted against working people. They're targeted against the employer to get their attention. A strike is the last arrow in the quiver, but it's not meant to be shot through the heart of our fellow members of the working class. So what I told this person, you go to your chemotherapy. I said, if it were me, I put on my comfortable shoes, I walk out to that picket line, I find the strike captain, I walk a couple of times back and forth with them, and I talk to them about their issues. I listen to what they have to say. I walk a mile in their shoes or a couple hundred feet because he's not doing well. And I guarantee you that strike captain will walk you to the door and open the door for you. Unless they have an injunction and the employer would have them arrested. Now, that's a whole nother problem. That's something down the line. But if I were the strike captain, I would walk you across that line and to that door, and I would open the door for you. Because don't want you dead. Want you there for the fight. But because the fact that you would show up and walk with us, we want you around. It's that person who's going to cross our picket line and give us the finger while doing it. So for me, this is where, I reach out and I say, look, you see a picket line, you join it. I talked about this the other day. You join it. You march with those folks. You listen to what their lives are like. You listen to their stories. And you offer to help to make it better. We can all do that. That's the amazing part of this. It's one of the things I love about the labor movement. We can all be part of making each other's lives better. And in turn, if we're making others' lives better, we're going to make our own lives better. That whole rising tide thing they keep telling us about. When we do have a rising tide that really rises the tide for all the, the yachts and the dinghies and the boats and everything, we all do better. That's simple. Love to hear your thoughts, though. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. If you missed any portion of the program, make sure you grab the podcast. Wherever you get your podcasts, you will find ours, from iTunes to iHeart, Stitcher to Podbean, everywhere in between. Thanks so much for being here. We'll see you back here next time.
You've been listening to The Rick Smith Show. Email Rick